So we're going to start by asking ourselves, is there really a question when you start with why a brand exists, what you believe in?
Over the last year, we have spent so much time asking ourselves, how does GE matter? Why does GE matter? And who should we matter to? And we really did some soul searching. GE, as many of you know, is a very big, global, diverse company. We make things like jet engines, we make MRI machines, we make turbines that are hard for people to get their minds around. So we chose to take people inside our factories, literally to the factory floor, and show them moments of how this technology comes to life. We actually used something which you may have noticed there. It was a helicopter drone. I, for one, did not know what a helicopter drone was before we shot this video, but it was a way for GE to be highly accessible, to matter to people. So we created this as a video, 1 million downloads later, tens of thousands of comments and shares later. This is a way that we can really touch people and bring our brand to life in a way that we think helps show why it matters. So, you know, we've worked with companies like BuzzFeed and Health Guru to really get this out there to the people that we think are going to enjoy it, people who share our love of science, of innovation, of invention, of making things with their hands.
Thank you.
Sure.
Carol, why don't you share some about ESPN?
Absolutely. When Ian asked me to be on this panel, I thought, how perfect for ESPN to be a company that's focused here. The company's mission is to serve sports fans anytime, anywhere. That is the company's mission. And at the core, we are about delivering the live sporting events, the studio shows that sports fans want. And by providing that focus and therefore putting our content on every possible device or communication channel possible, we're also helping our business. When we look at our brand campaign, and as head of marketing, I focus on not only marketing our sports properties, but also our brand, ESPN overall, we really focus on those universal truths about sports and what it means to be a sports fan and how you take that fandom to the largest part of your life. It kind of permeates your life. You know, we have a lot of fun with these campaigns, right? We're not driving tune in, we're not trying to do anything but help, you know, support our brand, but also pay homage to sports fans everywhere and their love for sports. And so the social space has been really fun because, of course, we can take these campaigns into the social space and let consumers have fun with us and play along. Throughout our marketing, we're obviously playing off our company's mission to serve sports fans anytime, anywhere. And I will say that that pervades the company in providing the best content for sports fans.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fabian Pfortmueller. I'm an entrepreneur, and my newest company is called Holsti. What we do is we make products that are designed with a conscience. So we make lifestyle products that are somehow made in a way where the consumer loves them, but they're also made in respect with people who produce them, with the resources for the planet, to really make kind of a product makes sense for everyone. I give an example. This is one of our best-selling products. It's a wallet made out of trash bags from the streets of India. We work with some of the lowest classes in India. We give them access to fair wages, give them access to education. We take those plastic bags and we make products out of them. And I've been an entrepreneur for a while. This is my 4th company I'm building right now. And when I started out, I was convinced that it's all about creating value. If you are an entrepreneur, you have to create value. But over time, I realized it was wrong. It was too narrow. What it's really about is you can create values. And so if you would go to the next one, when we started this company, we said, let's define for ourselves what success will mean in non-monetary terms. What will it mean for us that we're really successful? And we wrote this manifesto. We were sitting down on Union Square, and we just were starting out. We had no idea what we were doing, of course. And we just wrote down what we believed in. And it was on our website for over a year. No one cared about it. No one looked at it. And suddenly, it went viral. And by now, we have over 80 million views of the manifesto. And it has become a huge driver all over the world. People come and identify themselves with those values. And for us as a company, it has become so much easier to tell other people what we do and what we believe in by just showing them our values.
You know, I think we've got 3 people that are those who lead here. So let's ask them some questions around, have you noticed any brands leveraging this approach especially well or especially poorly?
I think of a brand having a commitment, an ongoing commitment, rather than thinking in terms of a campaign. Yeah. And campaigns may ladder up to that commitment, and that's great. You know, that's what we all do, and that brings things to life, and it uses creativity and often humor, et cetera. But I think of it as, what is that North Star that you're going to sign up for? So I do have an example that's not on stage with us, but it's one that I admire, and that's American Express Small Business Saturday. I think has done a really, really nice job of saying, we're going to stand for small business. Now, in their case, it's good business to stand for small business. But when they first launched Small Business Saturday, I just learned this last week, they welcome might not be the right word, all credit card companies to be part of that. So it was a big tent that they created. And it was such a win, because it was a win for American Express from a brand point of view, but these merchants who were dwarfed, I guess, by Cyber Monday and Black Friday, all of a sudden had a bit of a windfall. So that's an example that comes to mind that's not necessarily one that I work for.
That's been, I bet John, if he was still here from yesterday, would be very appreciative of that.
I think it's really interesting, because the minute a company talks about the good work they do, but the fact that they talk about it, it almost partially negates the good work that they do, because people assume they're doing it for marketing reasons or for press reasons, right, to get credit. Yeah. And as Ian said, I used to work at Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola gets blasted in the press for stealing water in third world countries to make Coca-Cola products. What doesn't get out there, and the company doesn't talk about, and as a marketer I was sometimes frustrated, is the Coca-Cola company actually provides clean water. They do take that water, they purify it and make it potable, drinkable, and then they put that water back to the villages and towns so that the people who live there could drink clean water. All right, but the company never talks about that, because if they did, instead of doing it because it's the right thing to do in the communities where you have factories, it would become a marketing thing. And I think that's challenging, because we all know in society today, especially among young people, that a green company or a company that does good really gets a halo effect. Yet there's a certain cynicism about them, and I don't actually know what the right answer is. You know, I think the company should do what's right to do what's right. The question is there an ancillary marketing benefit or not?
Fabian, would you build on that, this notion of the difference between corporate social responsibility and positive impact, doing things in line with your purpose, in line with your values?
I think building on both of what you said, I think it's very easy to have values and do campaigns in good times, but it becomes very interesting to see how brands stick to it in the bad times or in moment when it gets really tough. And I think a beautiful example comes from a company that we personally admire is Patagonia, an outdoor brand that really they spend their budget really, I would say, at least with their values in mind, and there's a lot of bad things that you do as organizations. So we as a startup as well, there's certain good things, but there's, you produce things and certain things don't produce very well. So one nice example I found from Patagonia is recently they had a campaign in the New York Times with this ad that said, "Don't buy this jacket." There was a big photo of a jacket and said, "Don't buy this jacket," because in the end of the day, they're in the business of selling jackets. But they also realized we're creating lots of waste out there. And what we should do is encourage people maybe not just to buy new jackets, but create a secondary industry and encourage people to resell their jackets. So I thought that was really smart. And they're also very transparent about that maybe some of their backpacks are made out of plastic and they're made in China and whatnot. And I think transparency and being open about both the good sides, but maybe even open about the bad sides, I think is really, really important and makes it then genuine.
Fantastic example. 1% of gross sales is what Patagonia recycles back. So it's off gross, which is that commitment in the bad and good times.
You know, building a relationship and that back and forth, you know, repeatable dialogue will increase your brand love, right? People's brand affinity more than ever. And if your friend talks about your brand to their friends, of course, that's even better. But I think what's important, and social media lets us have those dialogues and encourages your fans on Facebook to talk or share your content, but I think you have to be really genuine and authentic. I mean, I'm fortunate at ESPN because guess what? People talk about sports. People talk about the game before the game, they talk during the game, they talk smack at the bar, they're tweeting, they're texting their friends, they're talking about the game the next day. So for ESPN to be part of that dialogue, put our content out there for people to have a dialogue about, we're very fortunate because it's very genuine and authentic. But if you're marketing toothpaste, no offense to anyone in the room, you know, I don't think people talk that much about toothpaste, although they might talk about, wow, your teeth are so white, how did you get, you know. But I think that that's the piece is, you know, you don't want the pendulum to swing to be like, ooh, everyone wants to have a dialogue about my brand. It really has to be authentic, and sometimes it's really nothing about your brand. And I think that's the really important distinction because I see people kind of running and thinking that that's the answer. We'll talk about my brand, and a lot of times you might have to ladder up several levels above your brand or your category to have a relevant dialogue that you might be able to bring your brand into.
The product, the service, the content is a manifestation of your beliefs. I thought you did a really good job of presenting that. Could you elaborate on that a little more?
I think it's really about the power of stories. We never spent $1 on advertisement, but we spend a lot of time, energy, and money in thinking about stories. And not inventing stories, but telling stories that are already there. And I think in both of the examples you guys shown is those stories are real, they're already there. You just told them in a really beautiful way. And I think that's really powerful.
So you just raised a point that I think applies for larger organizations, the largest advertisers, and this notion of you know, the CMO's role has really been the CPO's role, the Chief Promotional Officer. You know, not all 4 Ps in marketing have typically been under the CMO's control in a lot of companies. Product development is what you're talking about, and this notion that in this world we need to be more connected end to end, right? So can you guys comment on that?
A brand comes to life, even the dullest brand that might be out there, when it becomes human and accessible. And we often say at GE, we're at our best when we're at our most accessible. And that's not easy. It is not easy to be transparent when you are a multinational with 300,000 employees in 200 countries. Just isn't easy. It's new times. What does that mean? Does that mean everybody gets to tweet? Does that mean everybody gets a say in everything? And we don't have the answer, but we're trying to experiment a little bit with what that looks like. And I think the role of CMOs and digital officers and the rest of us is to provide some guardrails. You know, we use the phrase sometimes freedom in a framework.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you can absolutely say here's the keys to the kingdom, not for a 130-year-old brand.
Yep.
But, you know, I think you also can't hold everything so close to the vest.
Absolutely.
That feels like yesterday. So I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, and I think an interesting point, you were saying, you know, if you're in marketing and you don't own product,
Yeah.
you know, how do you stay connected? And I think that gets back to your company mission to a certain extent. So yes, we do have our company mission, serving sports fans anytime, anywhere on the wall, but we also live it. So it is on the wall in most conference rooms at ESPN, but we live it, and we will talk about that because whenever you're debating something, the answer always is what would be best for the fan. And when that's the vernacular throughout a company, so for us, if it's in programming, production, the digital production people, communications, marketing, sales. When you default instantly, any debate gets down to what's right for the fan. That is really powerful because, first of all, it really shortens some of the debate in meetings, and you can kind of get to the core. But it gets everyone back on track to what's important in the company. And when that's a guiding principle, and we're much smaller. We have only 7,500 employees worldwide, not 300,000. But you know, when it's entrenched in people's mindset and that's your guiding principle, I think that really helps a lot. So it impacts your product, it impacts your sales, it impacts your marketing, communications, your programming, and when you make that right decision then, I think that gets the boat flowing in the right direction.